It turns out that the MAGA stronghold in the heartland isn't so strong after all. This Democrat, Caitlin Dray, has pulled off a shocking upset in the special election for the state Senate District 1, flipping a reliably red seat and ending the Republican supermajority there. Trump may be quickly trying to dismantle democracy, but voters are just as quickly trying to rebuild it. The win of the Democrat in Iowa in the state Senate seat there cannot be overstated. She beat the Republican by 11% in a reliably red district. And the fact is that we as a democracy cannot give up red states. They have to become purple because states have a lot of control over our elections. This is how our system works. Elections are state by state. And we see what has happened in Texas with Governor Abbott. If they want to gerrymander in a way in order to try to win more states, one, they may not do it so successfully, but it is up to the state. If you take away even one seat, as that just happened, the Republicans no longer have a super majority there. That means every legislation that they try passing, whether or not it's something attacking transgender, whether or not it's something that takes away an American worker's right, whether or not it is something involving our elections, it will now be that much harder to do it. This is how we strengthen our democracy. By state Senate seat, by state Senate seat, by state representative or assembly person, whatever that state calls it, one seat at a time, chipping away at the red state's power to make them more purple, or at least.
Hello guys, welcome back to my social commentary. I hope you are doing good and maybe are watching this video. If today is your first time of coming across our video, do well to subscribe to our channel and tell us what you think about this video in the comment section. So this is just a dramatic move as Democrats flipped two seats that belongs to our president Donald Trump. These are the seats for the Republicans in the state of Iowa state. So this is just a dramatic move as Democrats flipped these two seats and owns them now. So this means that the GOP supermajority and supremacy in the state of Iowa has reduced as there is much resistance now. So do well to tell us what you think about this video in the comment section. Watch more about what our president plans to do concerning this situation.
It turns out that the MAGA stronghold in the heartland isn't so strong after all. This Democrat, Caitlin Dray, has pulled off a shocking upset in the special election for the state Senate District 1, flipping a reliably red seat and ending the Republican supermajority there. Trump may be quickly trying to dismantle democracy, but voters are just as quickly trying to rebuild it. The win of the Democrat in Iowa in the state Senate seat there cannot be overstated. She beat the Republican by 11% in a reliably red district. And the fact is that we as a democracy cannot give up red states. They have to become purple because states have a lot of control over our elections. This is how our system works. Elections are state by state. And we see what has happened in Texas with Governor Abbott. If they want to gerrymander in a way in order to try to win more states, one, they may not do it so successfully, but it is up to the state. If you take away even one seat, as that just happened, the Republicans no longer have a super majority there. That means every legislation that they try passing, whether or not it's something attacking transgender, whether or not it's something that takes away an American worker's right, whether or not it is something involving our elections, it will now be that much harder to do it. This is how we strengthen our democracy. By state Senate seat, by state Senate seat, by state representative or assembly person, whatever that state calls it, one seat at a time, chipping away at the red state's power to make them more purple, or at least slow them down from continuing to pass legislation that harms our democracies and American workers. Former President Barack Obama is being more vocal, specifically around elections. He complimented Governor Gavin Newsom about the strategy in California to combat what they are doing in Texas in terms of diluting the rights of voters in an entire country. He also put out a post saying, here's some good news. Caitlin Dray won a special election this week to flip a seat blue in the Iowa Senate and break Republican supermajority. This seat had been in Republican hands for 13 years. When we are organized and support strong candidates who are focused on the issues that matter, we can win. Let's keep this going. Again, she won by 11%. And perhaps this will be a playbook for Democrats, that it matters who the candidate is that is put forward. And there are some really exciting candidates around the country, including the one who's going after Susan.
Donald Trump has already deployed the National Guard in Washington, D.C. and California, and now he wants to do it elsewhere. But can he? It's going to be way more difficult for him to do this in other states. First of all, Washington, D.C. is completely unique.
Under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States, I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act.
In all the other states, the governor controls the National Guard, except for in emergency scenarios. But in Washington, D.C., it's the president who controls the National Guard. There was no legal problem with Donald Trump deploying the National Guard in D.C. And in California, Donald Trump used an old, rarely invoked law reserved for emergency situations. What Donald Trump said is, in the face of ongoing protests by people in Los Angeles against ICE immigration enforcement, he needed to call out the National Guard in order to enforce federal law.
If I didn't bring the military in, Los Angeles would be burning down right now.
Now, Governor Gavin Newsom sued, but ultimately the appeals court ruled in favor of Donald Trump. Now, here's why it's going to be more difficult in other states. First of all, Trump does not control the National Guard in other states, unlike D.C. And second of all, it's going to be harder for Donald Trump to point to some emergency circumstance if there's not ongoing protests or riots. Trump might try to argue that crime rates are high or increasing, but it's not clear whether that's going to be enough to let him mobilize the National Guard under the Insurrection Act. So thus far, Donald Trump has been able to use the National Guard in D.C. and California, but when he gets to the other states, he's going to find that the legal environment is much more difficult.
Hey everyone, today I marched with union workers in Boston's first ever Labor Day parade. In Massachusetts, we'll always stand with workers, and we're not going to stand around while the Trump administration fires federal employees, cancels union contracts, goes after hardworking people and their families, jacks up prices, making it even harder to make ends meet. You know, workers built and power this country. We'll always fight for the wages, benefits, and the protections that they deserve. Happy Labor Day, everyone.
It's not looking too good for Donald, and the attempt by the White House to show us signs of proof of life continue to backfire. At this point, they're going to show us photos of Donald Trump from the 1980s and say, see everybody, here's the official photo from the White House of Donald Trump heading to play golf this morning. Or they're going to show us photos of Bigfoot and say, you see him right there? There he is in the woods. He's perfectly fine. I mean, that's not too different from what we're seeing this morning on Labor Day. I mean, there's no press appearances scheduled for Donald Trump on Labor Day, which is very odd. He hasn't been in front of the press since last Wednesday, which is very odd. They've been posting all of these images of him from last week or weeks ago, and they've been trying to pretend that this is him today or yesterday. He's been doing the same. He's like, look, I played golf with John Gruden on Sunday. I was perfectly healthy. Good night, everybody. I feel great. We're like, you played golf with him on August 23rd. We have the receipts. That was not yesterday. And you're just causing more suspicion to arise. This is what they're saying is his photo today on Labor Day. Look at him right there. Even if that is the photo, I mean, he's deeply unwell. Here's the Bigfoot shot of him. Not actually Bigfoot, but they're claiming this is him right there on the golf cart right there. I don't know if that's a nurse behind him or what's going on there, or this is a photo that a right-wing radio host posted. And if you look in the mirror right there, I'm not sure if that's a caretaker or Secret Service or what's going on there. Donald Trump did post good night last night at 10 p.m., to which California Governor Gavin Newsom responded, "Night, night, Grandpa." And California Governor Gavin Newsom continues to troll Donald Trump mercilessly, which we love here at the Midas Touch Network. Donald Trump has been posting on his official account, or I should say, people have been posting for him on his official social media accounts, his Instagram account. They posted this image: $8 trillion in tariff revenue and hundreds of thousands of new jobs created. Happy Labor Day. All false. $8 trillion in tariff revenue has not been achieved. Even if it were to be achieved, that means it was an $8 trillion tax on ourselves, because tariffs are taxes on the importers in the United States that are passed on to consumers. It's not a contract.
Some Americans will be enjoying a long holiday weekend before returning to the grind after Labor Day. A staggering number of Americans, though, will actually pull long shifts in hospitality and gig work on Labor Day. A precious few, less than 10% in fact, will return to a job with union protections. Some in the trades, others in service, mostly in the public sector. Regardless of the nature of labor one engages in, though, presumably we'll be celebrating the contributions of figures like Cesar Chavez, Mother Jones, and Samuel Gompers, who fought tirelessly for workers' rights on this most hallowed weekend. So let's check in with our esteemed cabinet to hear from Labor Secretary Lori Chavez DeRemer to hear how we'll be commemorating the contributions of the American workers. So, few things here. First off, people are referring to this moment as dictator chic, which is hilarious. I saw the Mycelis boys poking fun at this in the Midas pod. I mean, nothing celebrates the tireless contributions of the American worker like a giant banner of Dear Leader hanging from the decrepit building where mass layoffs have occurred. For the Midas Touch Network, I'm Max from UNFTR. Let's go. We have a tough relationship with labor in this country. I find it interesting that they chose to hang Teddy Roosevelt's picture next to Trump's. I grew up pretty close to the summer White House and the old home of TR, and I studied him for years. He's a fascinating figure who had his moments. I could talk Teddy all day long, and in the early parts of his career, he did align closely with the labor movement, becoming friends with Samuel Gompers, the founder of the AFL. But over time, even this relationship soured as Teddy grew increasingly wary of union power in the United States. I'm going to come back to this to illustrate a larger point, but first, let's have a conversation about work and the Trump administration's plans for it. Work in the United States has changed dramatically over the past century plus. In prior videos, we spoke about the phases of empire, moving from manufacturing to service to finance before the gradual decline takes hold. There's little doubt that we're in the financialization phase of empire, but we've never let go of the visual of the working man and the working woman as the backbone of the country. You know, the hard hat, the truck, the sweat, standing over blueprints and pointing at stuff, building things, ingenuity. I'm certain that your television screens will be rife with this kind of imagery as we mark another holiday with hot dogs and beer and reminisce about when this country made stuff, when men were men and an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. The truth is, we're pretty far past that. Trade labor, like so much of the American nostalgia, exists mostly in ads and posters. The reality is that 40% of American households engage in part-time supplemental work to make ends meet. According to Upwork, 38% of workers engaged in freelance.
We will be having a conference tomorrow in the Oval Office at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure y'all tune in so we can see what the fuck Dookie Booty got to say. Yeah, we got on this internet making all kind of noise about Dookie Booty trying to be in hiding, and now he finally coming out and he gonna speak to the American people. I don't know what the fuck he gonna talk about, but he better address his motherfucking health concerns and he better address the Epstein files. All we want to know is, are you dying, and what are motherfucking Epstein files? That's it. That's all. We don't give a fuck about nothing else you got to say. We don't give a fuck about you being mad that India don't want to nominate you for the Nobel Peace Prize. We don't give a fuck about Rudy Giuliani. We don't give a fuck about none of that shit. All we want to know is, are you dying? And where are the Epstein files? Because y'all fucking playing with us. The judge already said y'all needed to release the motherfucking files. And y'all want to send over some bullshit. Y'all think that all this shit y'all doing gonna distract us, but it's not gonna distract us. All we need to know is, are you fit to run this country? Oh, what the fuck am I saying? We already know you ain't fucking fit to run this fucking country. All we need to know is if you fucking dying or not. Because if you dying, you need to get your ass about the motherfucking way and let the next stupid motherfucker, Vanity Vance, step up so that we can start fighting against his ass. Because we don't give a fuck. Anybody who's in your fucking cabinet that steps up, we gonna come at them 10 times harder than we came at you, Dookie. So we don't care who's in there. We just need to know who's gonna be in there permanently. Because it's not looking like it's gonna be you. Because you've been looking real bad these past few days. You need to just go ahead and just call it the motherfucking day. Spend your last days doing something good, trying to get into heaven. You keep talking all this, I want to get into heaven shit, I want to get into heaven shit. Then step down, Dookie. Just go ahead and resign. Resign, step down, let somebody else step in, and go try to do the best you can do with the rest of your life.
So it actually gets much worse than the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals ruling on Friday that Donald Trump's so-called reciprocal tariffs against the world were unlawful and thus invalid. You see, on Friday morning, Donald Trump had his cabinet submit letters to that Federal Circuit Court of Appeals saying that it would utterly humiliate Donald Trump and the administration and harm the United States standing in the world if the court ultimately ruled against the Trump regime. And then a few hours later, the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals made that ruling that Donald Trump's invocation of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEPA, to try to institute these tariffs was patently unlawful and illegal. So the cause and effect right there was the Trump regime begging, please, you're going to make us look so embarrassed. And then the court right away said, enough is enough. We're issuing our order right before Labor Day. Now, I can't say for certain that the court didn't already have it planned that they were going to make the ruling on Friday, but they seem to have expedited their ruling based on the begging by the Trump regime. So earlier in the day, there was this story out of Bloomberg, but it just talked about the filing by the Trump regime, how Donald Trump's Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, and others warned of massive embarrassment to the United States if the tariffs were ruled illegal. Hours later, the tariffs were ruled illegal, and its other cabinet officials got involved as well. Trump cabinet officials told a federal appeals court that ruling President Trump's global tariffs illegal would seriously harm U.S. foreign policy, with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent warning of dangerous diplomatic embarrassment. The administration on Friday filed statements by Bessent, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit in Washington. They oversee the Court of International Trade, which previously ruled against the Trump regime, but stayed or paused their order pending a ruling by the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals, and they in turn stayed their order pending a ruling by the United States Supreme Court. And it says that the court was expected to decide later today about what Donald Trump's powers were. Bessent, Lutnick, and Rubio's statements were filed in support of a request that any ruling against the administration be immediately put on hold until the Supreme Court issues a final decision. Failing to do so would have devastating and dire consequences, Lutnick said. During July 31st oral arguments before the Federal Circuit, the administration claims of broad tariff power were met with skepticism,
Hey guys, thank you for watching our video. And with this political momentum that has turned, our president Donald Trump's grip over the state of Iowa is not as solid as it seems before after this drastic and dramatic incident. I know it must touch him real bad, and let's wait and watch what he will do over this if he's going to invoke martial law in the state of Iowa in regards to win over the 2 seats that he lose over to the Democrats in the state of Iowa. So if today is your first time of coming across our video, do well to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so that more videos like this will pop up your screen about what is happening in the country. You guys are welcome.